It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
And welcome to Friday night. This is Car Con Carne. I'm James Van Alstyne. Still doing this from home. Car Con Carne. The word car is in the podcast name. I'm not in the car. I haven't been in the car for about a month and a half. I do hope to return to the car someday. Hey, get vaccinated so we can all sit in cars together and eat pizza slices and jalapeno poppers and chicken tenders and all the things that people enjoy sharing in good company in tight, confined spaces. So that said, I spent during the pandemic, the first pandemic version 1, I spent that entire time doing this podcast from home. I will continue to do that until things lighten up a little bit out there. A couple quick housekeeping notes. I wanted to share this. 6 months ago, I had Stephen Kostanski. He's the writer and director of the movie Psycho Goreman, which you might have seen on Shudder. Just got the soundtrack, the score to Psycho Goreman. It is gorgeous. It's a Waxworks release. Oh my gosh, that made me very happy. See the movie or listen to the interview. That was episode 572. Also, a recurring guest on the show, Blind Adam and the Federal League. Fantastic, socially aware, political centric band. Love them. They're doing their album release show at Subterranean next Friday night, Friday the 17th. You can win tickets on carconcarne.com. Thanks to Blind Adam and the Federal League and Soothsayer and Sub T for that. And one final note before I bring on the guests for today, for this episode, the sister podcast, the companion podcast to Car Con Carne, just launched. Episode 2 just hit within the past 24 hours. The Music of Chicago. It is like a radio show. It is a local music radio show in podcast form. How does this work? Well, as you know, if you listen to podcasts, you don't hear music in podcasts. There's a good reason for that. A podcast is a mechanical download, which means when someone downloads that podcast, you're basically giving them whatever's in that podcast. Copyrighted content is not something you can include in a podcast because you're giving away someone else's intellectual property. Every song you hear on the Music of Chicago has been provided to the show by the people who own the publishing licenses of those songs, and they have also granted permission to the show. So it is all above board, and really the sole purpose of the Music of Chicago podcast is to evangelize the breadth, the many styles, the wondrous music of the city of Chicago and the suburbs and the excerpts. So please give that a listen. You can find out more at carconcarne.com, because for now I'm housing both podcasts on one website. All right, that all out of the way. That's some business. I actually have Car Con Carne business. That's exciting. That out of the way, I want to bring on tonight's guests. They are two incredibly talented men. Preston Thomas, he is a genre-spanning photo artist. He does fine art. He does street photography. The stuff he does is just plain cool. Preston is here. Also, Chris Castaneda. Nita?
You got it.
All right. He is the music curator of the Beverly Art Walk. We're here tonight to talk about the Beverly Art Walk. He's also been a member of the Beverly Area Arts Alliance for the past 4 years. The Beverly Art Walk strolls into its 8th year this year. It's very exciting. It's happening on Saturday, the 18th from noon until 5 p.m. Let's start there. The Beverly Art Walk. I'm talking to you from north of Beverly, and I might have some listeners, some viewers who are not familiar with Beverly beyond, say, Rainbow Cone. Why should we come out to the Beverly Art Walk? And I'm throwing that right at you, Chris.
Oh, okay. Other than Rainbow Cone, we've had quite an emergence of new businesses in Beverly that have really added to the flavor of the neighborhood and have become really strong partners of the Alliance, specifically Horse Thief Hollow is a brewery right on Western Avenue.
Everyone loves Horse Thief Hollow. Everyone loves Horse Thief Hollow.
Yes. And then fairly slightly younger than Horse Thief is Open Outcry that opened up just a few years after Horse Thief. And just, we have a beautiful neighborhood. I say we still, even though I have since 2 months ago just moved from Morgan Park to Homewood. So I'm wrapping up my Beverly commitments in my final week.
I was going to say, are you an imposter, a fraud, a charlatan?
I've got the asterisk next to my name.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's a beautiful setting. There's some great architecture in the neighborhood. We are the only neighborhood with a castle that we can say is in our neighborhood at 103rd, the Givens Castle, which makes for, in the past when it came to booking shows, it was easy to say, would you like to play a show at a castle? And you definitely would get a response pretty fast. But yeah, it's just a great day to just showcase just the developing art that's been brewing in the neighborhood over the past couple of years that has someone who grew up on the southeast side of Chicago. Before I even stepped foot in Beverly, I would not have even known that existed. And to see how that has grown over my time with the Alliance and as a resident has been really something to see.
All right, let's talk a little bit. I want to talk about the stuff Preston does, but before we get there, talk about the history of the Art Walk. This is the 8th year.
Yes.
I'm assuming this started small, and here we are in 2021, and it's a thing.
Yeah, so our co-founders, Monica Wilczak and Sal Campbell, started the Alliance back in 2014. That was the first year of the Art Walk. At that time, they were able to get close to about 30 to 40 local businesses, a mix of businesses, and quite possibly what we do now is just activate sort of dead space and turn it into gallery space.
I love it.
And at that time, probably about 75 artists were in that initial Art Walk. Fast forward to now, we're up to 120 artists and just close to 50 venues. So, and those artists range from artists, photographers, craft vendors, ranging from all areas of the city and also from out of state, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan. So it's really grown over the years, and the appetite to be part of it has really been steady over the years too.
All right, so Preston, you need to see Preston's work. First, let's start there. Where can we see you hanging out a week from Saturday? Where can we see your stuff?
I'm going to be at 2 Mile Coffee Bar, right there on 99th and Walden, just maybe about half a block north of 99th Street. It's actually a really cool place. It was a different coffee bar before that, but it's owned by a guy who Nate, who is an architect, and so he's transformed a space which initially seemed pretty small. I walked in the other day and I said, this easily looks like twice the space. It's like Hermione's bag from like, Harry Potter or something like that, because I can look around and see that it is the same space. But, he's painted the walls black, and it's got like these architectural sensibilities that are right after my own heart. I joked with him. I said, I think we have a similar OCD going on here, because of the way he's just laid the place out. It's wonderful. And Sal called me about the space. Sal, Chris, as you know, is, Sal and Monica. Sal has always been my contact. Sal is the one who sort of chased me down to be in the Art Walk the first time. But yeah, so I'll be at 2 Mile Coffee Bar. I'm excited to be there. The Art Walk has been, I sound like Garrett Morris's character from Saturday Night Live. Art Walk been very good to me. Mm-hmm. The Art Walk has been very good to me. So because
it exposes your stuff to people who may not find it through the traditional ways you put it out there.
Exactly. And initially, I met Sal at Horse Hollow. I was sitting there with another artist, Garrett Smothers, who's going to be exhibiting this year as well. And we're having a couple of cocktails, and Sal walks in with Baird, her husband, and he makes introductions. And Garrett, GL's like, he's a photographer, and you should see his stuff. And I always cringe when people do this, but they pulled up my website on their cell phones, and I'm like, can we not? Just don't do that. Go get a screen, a real screen. But they're looking at it, and Sal says you should be in the Art Walk. And I scoff. And so I just say, really? Just sort of, really? because I was not familiar with the art. I'd seen advertisements around Beverly about the art walk. And that was really all I knew about it. And my first thought was, this is an arts and crafts fair. I mean, what's really happening here? And she could tell, and so a few days later, I get an email from her. She says, we should get together and talk about the art walk. And I'm like, I thought I was standoffish enough when we were at the bar, but no, okay, fine, let's do this. So we got together and we talked a little bit, and she, showed me a whole lot of things that they were working on. And I had a conversation with Monica, who was excellent, and then Carla, who also, I don't think Chris, she's no longer working with the Alliance at this point, right?
No, she's not a board member, but she's still active with us.
Yeah. And they were like really cool. And they were talking about a body of work I had finished at the time called Through My Lens, A Black Girl's Magic. And Sal was like, you got to show this. I'm in love with it. And I'm like, okay, fine, let's just see where this goes. And as it turns out, as I got to know more folks who were involved with the art walk and got to see some of the art that was, going up on the walls, I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad they kept after me, because this is wonderful, and I think the thing that really does it, aside from all the other artists who do like amazing work, is their dedication to the artists. I mean, they are really in it, or like they work with the businesses, and that's a challenge for them sometimes, because businesses don't always get it,
right,
that we're going to flood your establishment with a ton of people today, and you're going to receive a ton of advertising that you could never pay for, or you would never pay for. And it costs you pennies really on the dollar, and we'll take care of all of it. All you have to do is just open the door and then just go sit down, and then we'll do the rest of it. But they are so dedicated to the artists, and I really felt like you're being seen, you're being heard, and it was really a joy. And that first day, my first exhibit, and I was on Walden again, and just to see my work up and see people walking through, 90% of whom I'd never met, just stand there with their mouths open, going, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, okay, it actually kind of is for me as well, So I've been hooked ever since. I think this is my 5th one.
That's awesome. And for the local businesses, I mean, no secret, last year was awful. So the idea of people flooding into these independently owned businesses and hopefully ringing some cash registers all around the community, that's a wonderful thing.
I think it's incredible. I mean, in my opinion, like I have a banking background. I call it back in my dark days, but I have a banking background, but I know the cost of advertisement and the return on investment when you're trying to advertise something, and most of it just goes nowhere. And you're happy if you get 2 or 3%, you're celebrating, 5% is a win-win for everyone. And here you have, like, Beverly is this city, in a way unto itself. And there's a sense of community, which is just, it's lovely, right? And the fact that you've got folks who are actively working to marry artists with your business. And I think that, like, there's some businesses that get it and they're all in, and there's some businesses that just do their best to make it extra difficult for Chris and everybody else who's working on this thing, And I feel, I feel sorry for them. I buy Sal liquor when we're out, I'm like, here, just have this and tell me all about it, But I think it's incredible what they do and the way they pull it together without just completely losing it.
So again, this is happening on Saturday, the 18th. We're recording this on September 10th. Chris, I know music is a big part of who you are as a person, what you do. You're the music curator here. I mean, are you the guy responsible for bringing Steve Wynn to Beverly?
Yeah. So Steve was just here Wednesday, and his booker had put the word on Facebook that Steve was going to go on tour, and Steve was looking for interesting places to play. So I just happened to catch this post 10 minutes after it gone out. And I immediately texted a fellow board member, Dave Barsati, whose backyard has been one of the backyards that we've used the past 2 years for backyard shows.
It's a menagerie.
And it's a great place. Any artist we've had come, we've had John Langford play there.
Yeah.
We had Nicholas Tremulis play there. Nora O'Connor calls it the Ravini of the South Side. I just knew that once I sent photos to the booker that this would get his attention, and it just worked out. It was lucky that it's a small world in the music community. It's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon almost sometimes with certain musicians.
Oh, it's 6 degrees of John Langford. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, John is the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So she noticed that, she and I knew a couple of the same people. So that kind of opened up the discussion, and we got picked, and we had a great show. Steve loved the place. And the folks that came, a lot of them were not from the neighborhood. Awesome. A lot of Northsiders just coming down, and they had a great time.
I was maybe a freshman in high school when I bought Medicine Show, Dream Syndicate. That's awesome. So, all right. So along the lines of music, what's going on for the Art Walk? So
right now, the way I've done it the past 4 years, and more so now the last 2, that I've, sort of been learning every year on just how to tweak everything. I'm still sort of a music booker on job training every day, because I was a music journalist and never saw ever booking music, and so it's definitely been a learning experience. But so this year, it's a mix of businesses who are pretty active with us will already have an idea of what musicians they want to have, so that makes my job so much easier. And they know how to take care of the things. So what I try to do is, in the past, we've had a main music stage. So my focus has been always sort of making that lineup interesting enough to kind of pull people in over the course of the day to one location, and then leave enough time to sort of go out back into the Art Walk and check things out. So this year, we don't have a main stage per se this year, but Nikki's of Beverly on Western Avenue will be hosting a headlining set by the Western Elstons. And then I'm also sprinkling in some local musicians that I've come to know. They'll give them a shot to get more of an audience who would mostly go see the Western Elstons either at the Hideout or Simon's. And then also bring those folks from Simon's and the Hideout and Fitzgerald's, and they will draw. I've also just booked Phil and Gotti, who I just found out grew up just 10 minutes from me in my old neighborhood. So we're both Southeast Siders, and my dad and my uncles probably knew his family back in the day. So that's
amazing.
Cool. And
I just saw Phil doing the material issue thing.
Yeah. So that's been cool, kind of seeing him do that. And I've seen him do some Beatles stuff at Blue Island Beer Company. So he's been on my radar. So that worked out great. And then another artist named Joe Ryan, who I believe is from the Bridgeport neighborhood. So he'll be performing there as well. And then just we'll have some music over at 2 Miles. So sprinkling in where businesses who are interested in having music but don't have the network to kind of reach out to musicians. So that's where I kind of help. And if they need it, I'm happy to, find a musician that'll go and enjoy the time there and let them do their thing.
So this year we're talking about pop-ups, gallery exhibitions, home studio visits. I mean, this sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, it's a great day. I mean, it's all day long between 95th to 111th, Walden to Western. I mean, this is put on some comfortable shoes and have at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of walking. I've yet to really make it through an entire Art Walk catching everything. So
Sure.
year by year, I kind of just try to go places where I missed the year before. But yeah, it's quite the thing. And, like Preston said, businesses that have been part of the Art Walk consistently have tweaked how they approach it. And those who are new, kind of, they find their way and see if it works for them. Sometimes maybe it's just the wrong music was there that maybe didn't fit the mood, and so we kind of just work with that. But yeah, it's a full day of just nonstop art and culture and music, and just right now, knock on wood, the weather's looking great, so it's going to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and people see, everything between Western and Walden.
All right, so Preston, I'm sure you've already figured out what you're going to be putting up. Like, what can we see of yours?
You would think.
You got a week.
It's not fun until you're making these decisions the night before. But no, actually, so this work, I've traveled to Cuba a couple of times, and I've shown that work once, in a solo show. I've never shown it at the Art Walk. So I'm going to have about 8 pieces up, and it will be these pieces. Some of them will capture, well, I call it arriving in Havana. And we rolled into Havana we were in Varadero the first time, which is where the beaches are. There are no beaches in Havana. I don't know if either of you've ever been. But the Havana coastline is really rocky. So the beaches, you have to go out to places like Varadero. But we're riding from Varadero into Havana in the back of a 56 Bel Air convertible.
Yes.
And and I mean, it's kind of a pinch yourself moment. The entire trip takes about 2 hours. And as we're coming in along the Malecon, which is the road that, like our Lakeshore Drive, that runs along the Atlantic, and it's unreal, and it was like late afternoon, and this is April, my first trip, so it's late afternoon, so the sun's kind of low in the sky, and it's just sort of shooting across these buildings, and which are also unreal, and all these rich colors. And there's a little bit of haze, and it was almost like someone had just taken an impressionist brush and just wiped it. And at some point, I go, I'm staring. I'm like, you should be photographing this. So I'm leaning out of the car, and I'm trying to catch these. And because the car is moving, I'm sort of panning as I catch a subject, and I shoot all manual stuff. So, I'm panning, and so there's a very painterly aspect to these photographs because the car is in motion, and the only thing that's in focus is sort of like right there in the middle. And I didn't show them initially. I just stared at them a lot, and then I printed some at roughly 24 by 18, and I was like, okay, I'm in love with this. And my wife's like, where's that been? Where's this stuff been? Because I have so much work and from Cuba, and it's a very emotional place because I traveled there initially back in 2014 after my mother passed, which is like always, I don't know anyone who still doesn't feel that like it was
right.
yesterday when you talk about it. So a friend of mine suggested that we get out of the city and go to Havana, and I said yeah, because you just say yeah.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Yeah. Yeah,
you just say yeah. And then about a week or so later, he calls me with an itinerary, and I'm literally like, what the hell are you talking about? And he goes, we're going to Cuba. Who's going to Cuba? What are you talking about? So literally we road trip to Toronto, from Toronto into Havana.
Wait, which on its own, that's a fun trip. Toronto's a cool place.
Toronto's a cool place. The road to Toronto, if you ever sleep, it's the flattest, most... so there was nothing there. Toronto is amazing. And then Havana is unreal. And some of the work there, some of the things that just happened along the way, like to be walking down the street and some guy sees you with your camera, but his English isn't great. So they do this thing where they point to their eyes and they point to like they want you to see something. So I walk over I tell my friends I'll catch up to them, and I'm thinking this is either going to be horrible, I'm going to get mugged, or it's going to be the best thing ever.
I was about to say, I feel like I've seen that movie before.
Right, it's right.
What you're describing.
I'm like, either way, it'll be an adventure. So I walk over, and everything there is behind scaffolding and corrugated metal because they just don't have the infrastructure to get it done, right? He pulls back this corrugated metal and pushes open this wooden door, and there's this perfectly preserved cathedral. Empty, pristine, absolutely gorgeous. And he just does that he's so satisfied with himself. He's like, I knew I was going to blow your mind, and here it is. And it is when I had my show initially, when I actually showed all of this work, there was a woman who showed up like at the start of the show, which you never do for an art exhibit because nothing starts on time. If you show up on time, you have to help. That's the way I feel about it. And she comes in and she's standing, and I'm actually adjusting some lighting, and she stops in front of this cathedral. And I noticed she's standing there for a while, and so I figure I'd get down and introduce myself, and I walk over, and she's crying. And I am Preston, I'm a photographer, and she introduces herself. Her name was Maria. She says, my parents were married in this cathedral. We left La Habana when I was 6 years old. I have not seen this place since. Exactly. Just, so it's one of those. So I love showing this work because it's so full of conversation and stories and people just connect with it. And so I'm excited. So that's what I'm showing for the Art Walk, and I love it.
And really, if you're going to a coffee house, pictures of Cuba seem like appropriate.
And the coffee is amazing.
Exactly.
It is. I have a photograph of the guy who's grinding the beans. He's just this dude with his hat on. And he's just looking at me, and he's sitting in front of like all these bags of beans, and the look on his face is like.
So to be clear, I mean, Preston Thomas is talking about his exhibit, which sounds super interesting and kind of a must-see. This is a fraction of what will be going on at the Beverly Art Walk. I mean, that's what's so cool. I mean, you are, but you're a super cool, very acclaimed artist, but you're just one of the many artists that'll be there. That's what's so exciting about this.
This is true. We, as a matter of fact, when I was talking to Sal and I met at 2 Mile Coffee because, she's like, I'm coming here and look around. We met someone who I've forgotten her name, or she's going to kill me. And she just happened to be in there. She's like, I overheard you guys talking about the Art Walk. She's probably, Chris, I don't know if you know, probably one of the last people to be added. She does like collage work. But she says, and I know I'm past the deadline. And, we invited her to sit down, and she shows us some of the work. And I look at Sal, and I'm going, she's got to get her. She's got it. I mean, it was amazing. It was just such like a random thing. Hi, I know I'm late, but here's what I do. And it's like, okay, well, and so I talked to Sal a little while ago, and she's in the Art Walk now. There's just such a glut of, I guess you could say an embarrassment of riches.
You could say that.
To be happening like in Beverly, you're like, it's you know what I'm saying, Chris? It's like you've got all these incredible artists showing up in like Monica and Dave's backyard.
Yeah.
Right. Like, where are they? Like, oh, they're in the backyard.
What I love about events like this, and what I love about this event, one of you used the word at the beginning of this conversation, community. You walk into this and you feel like you're part of something bigger and something connected and exciting and very human and real. This is a community, and the community we're talking about, Beverly, Morgan Park, it's a diverse community, multicultural. It's awesome. And I think this is going to be a terrific event. Again, this is happening on the 18th, which is Saturday the 18th from noon until 5. Before I let you gentlemen go, I do want to mention to Chris, I saw you posted something about new adventures in hi-fi. I keep waiting for the REM Renaissance. Like, I don't know why people kind of forgot about REM. That album from 1996, I think, is spectacular. Yeah,
you and Greg Cott both agree, and I feel the same way. Yeah, no, it's that's sort of near to my heart too. My mom also passed away 2 years ago, so when these REM memories pop up, I think about her because yeah, she bought that for me. Or when Monster turned 25, that was the tour that I saw my first concert at. My mom and my dad took me first night at Rosemont Horizon before
That's
my
amazing.
eighth grade graduation. And so that's art and music and those things really can pull memories out of you.
And let's be honest, art and music is what pulled us through the past 18 months.
Yeah.
Without it, we would have all been a mess.
Yeah. That's, through that came the birth of our backyard shows. And instead of an art walk, we did an alt walk, and businesses, use their storefronts to display music or to display art, just so people can walk by outside safely and see art in the neighborhood still. So yeah, we navigated as best as we could and found different ways of doing stuff. And now we are, a year and a half later, and we're ready to do Art Walk again, and just, be outside with friends and just community and folks who've never been to the neighborhood for the first time. And and just, kind of celebrate, like I said, that, the art that's there under the surface, or in plain sight, and you just never notice it until, it really kind of drags your eyes to, for your attention. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So for people who are interested, is there a place they can go, Facebook page, something for more info?
So yeah, so you can go to beverlyarts.org, which is the main Alliance page. We're going to have, we generally have a map available through the website, so you can print that out, and that'll be your guide through the entire neighborhood. The Alliance is also on Facebook and on Instagram, and on Twitter. So feel free to find us on all those platforms. And we'll, like Preston said, we'll be working on stuff all the way, till the night before. And Preston can agree. Sal Campbell, who is sort of the main artist contact for the Art Walk and helps with a lot of the curating. This is her super busy time. She loves the artists that she can get. She is out there at the businesses with hammer and nails and helping artists hang up their artwork or work with the businesses to make sure, that certain wall is not going to get scratched or whatever. And she just goes all out, and she and Monica, this is their goal always each year to get to, and to really just go all out from the year before. And they really, their passion drives this. And, we're currently an 11 person board. We are all volunteers. We all have our day jobs and our kids. And what we do with the Alliance and with the Art Walk is through our spare time. And, it's been great. And it's spare time well spent on a neighborhood that we all love.
So Preston, we can see the Cuba pictures on Saturday. If people want to dig deeper into your archives and see your stuff, not on a mobile phone, but maybe on a desktop or a laptop, where should they go?
My website is prestonthomas.net.
Perfect. All right, gentlemen, I hope it's a rousing success. I hope it does everything I think it will do. So thank you for spending time doing this tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you, James.
I appreciate it.